much, everyone. Welcome back to the program. I'm now being joined by the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of this election, Mr. Frankumba. He's live with us right here in Benin City makeshift election studio. Thanks so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sean.
You also look tired. I've never seen you in this manner before.
Well, it's just one of those things. I mean, I know you love football, and when you're preparing for a big competition, it comes this way. But the good thing is, it won't last forever.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, we'll be out of Benin.
Yeah. Hopefully for good.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, would you say all is set for tomorrow's election as far as the police is concerned?
Absolutely. I would say all is set. We have done our deployments. We've taken care of all our concerns. We've made provisions for tomorrow. We're taking care of INEC headquarters, the RAC centers, and anticipated operations for tomorrow. And so we are good to go. We believe very strongly that with all we've put in place, Edo people should be able to come out tomorrow to cast their votes without let or hindrance. We are cautiously optimistic that it will end well. But you know, Sean, that the conduct and the utterances of politicians are very key to how elections pan out in this country. If politicians continue to spew hatred, inciting and provocative comments, that in itself will continue to hit all the polity. And therefore, one of the things we've been talking, and some of the stakeholders' engagement I've been having since I come here, is to speak on the need for politicians to show some sense of decency in the way they speak and in the way they carry themselves, particularly in public spaces. It's quite unfortunate and very regrettably so that politicians who are expected and supposed to act as centripetal forces have all turned out to become rather centrifugal forces. Rather than helping to forge citizens together, they are out there spewing very inciting and provocative comments. But beyond that, I will tell you...
And there is no way you can caution that? Is that under the police purview to be able to caution because of what it will cost? Under the law, are you able to police those kind of narratives?
That's why sometimes you have to speak to the conscience of politicians because you know what the Constitution says about the freedom of speech. And even though we know there are limitations, but you understand that this is one very slippery terrain. And so while we are doing what we can to manage that, we are focusing on the very hard aspects of policing the election security. And those are ensuring that there are no violence at the polls, ensuring that we secure the ballot boxes, ensuring that we're able to escort sensitive and non-sensitive materials from CBN offices to the local government headquarters, to the RAC headquarters, to the wards and the polling centers, and then at the end of the elections, do same in reverse order. We'll also be ensuring that we secure all the personnel and secure the space so that people can actually carry out their legitimate trades as they relate to these elections without any form of intimidation or harassment. Again, tomorrow, we will be enforcing the restriction of movement.
Which is from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Which is from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Again, this also shows how responsive the Nigerian police force is. Originally, we had a culture of commencing the restriction of movement from 12 midnight to 6 p.m. the next day. But in consideration of the concerns, the complaints of citizens, that has to be adjusted in order to accommodate the concerns of our citizens. So tomorrow, it is important for parents and for everybody to know that if you are not accredited to carry out any of the functions relating to the elections, you are not a personnel of any of the security agencies, the Nigerian military, that is legitimately assigned on this job and accredited to do so, you shouldn't be out on the street. If you're not a journalist that has been accredited to cover the elections, you shouldn't be on the street. If you're not an accredited election observer, you shouldn't be there. Just come, go out there, perform your civic duty, cast your vote, and return to your home.
Let me ask you, is there a reason why there seems to be some unusual presence of security operatives in some part of Benin City? And there are words around the city as to the presence of some politicians who are not from here, who are already in the city. Is there any particular attention to those who are politically exposed persons and how they could affect or influence the election that the police is monitoring?
Shane, you understand that this is an off-cycle election, and this is one of the challenges we have to deal with. This is a reality of our politics. Whenever there is an off-cycle election, it simply means that there are a lot of spare hands from other states of the Federation. So you're going to have party members from all divides. Because if you look at it now, you're going to find sympathizers of all the main political parties contesting this election. You'll find their sympathizers in town.
And you have up to 1-2 armored personnel carrier in front of a residence of politicians in the city.
Now let me just make this point. And so, when these politically exposed persons are in town, it puts additional pressure on the policing structure, because number one, as long as they don't do anything that is overtly against the law, they have not committed any offense. They have freedom. There is freedom to free movement in this country. And so just the same way that Shehu traveled all the way from Lagos to here, other people will also travel and come into Benin. But all this, the presence of both the journalists, the election observers, these politicians, and the rest of them puts a lot of strain and pressure on the policing structure, because we need to make sure that the journalists are safe, election observers are safe, the politicians are safe. And remember, some of these politicians are persons with constitutional immunity. That again puts the policing structure even under under higher pressure.
Because what other political persons in the state will say, oh, these other persons are receiving extra and special protection arrangement, which they are thinking is up to skewing the election in the favor of these politically exposed persons that are in specific areas of the city.
Again, this will depend on which side of the divide you are viewing it. If you analyze it in the reverse order, you could also know that the presence of policemen in certain areas could also be for purposes of monitoring, intelligence gathering, and surveillance operations. So and sometimes even the persons you think are happier that there are some heavy police presence around them are equally uncomfortable, because it simply puts a kind of it's a kind of oversight around their activities. And so it depends on which side of the divide or which side of the coin you are looking at it from. And so, but for us here, our concern is to ensure that this election comes and go in an atmosphere devoid of violence. If you have highly politicians, if you have persons that are politically exposed in your city, you also need to watch over them, because they are also vulnerable they are open to attack. They can be subject of assassination plots.
So these people also stretch the police in terms of your operation.
Of course.
They stress the system there.
Of course. Even the fact that Channels Television is in this town and so many other televisions are in this town, they all impose additional stress on us, because we are keeping an eye on you. We don't want anything to happen to you. We don't want anything to happen to the corpers, to the youth corpers. We don't want anything to happen to the election observers. We don't want anything to happen to the accredited journalists who are here. By the very nature of your job, no matter how professional you are, there could be persons that just simply believe you are stepping on their toes. And so we are keeping an eye on all of you, and it's putting a heavy toll on our policing structure and system.
What about?
But we are glad to do that,
all right,
because that's why we are employed, trained, equipped, clothed, and paid to do.
Oredo local government area, INEC office in Oredo local government area, and that of Eshako. There are unusual. I was talking to the INEC National Commissioner. Is there any reason why there are unusual presence of persons who a lot of people would say they're not supposed to be there? They are there today. Again,
these are questions that might be very difficult for me to answer, but what I've done and what we've done is, in those areas where we've observed unusual crowd or usual number of persons, we've also recalibrated our security around those areas, increase personnel, increase operational access, increase the number of undercover operatives, and we've done the right thing, because sometimes you can't just stop people from being who they are, but you can stop them from breaking the law. And our task is to stop them from breaking the law.
One of the law that a lot of people will fear tomorrow is vote buying. Have you devised a way to stop vote buying tomorrow?
Well, vote buying is one of the most difficult offenses to actually police and manage. And I'm saying this with every sense of honesty. The reason is simple. the bulk of vote buying and selling that take place don't take place in the glare of the public, in the glare of the media, in the glare of the law enforcement agents. Sometimes they take place in the bedroom of citizens. And we don't have the capacity to police every home, every bedroom, every kitchen, every toilet, every sitting room, every balcony. But our pledge, which happens is that the ones that happens in the glare of the public, the ones our intelligence network are able to detect, intercept, will deal with them. As I speak to you, operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission are in this town. I held a meeting with them, just like I did with heads of other security agencies, as well as the representatives of the Nigerian Army and Nigerian Navy and the DG of NYSC today. And I will tell you that these operatives of EFCC will be working with us to ensure we deal a big blow on vote buyers. And there's another area that we're also keeping our eyes very closely on. We have intelligence that some people in Benin have actually printed fake tags for fake election observers and monitors. We're working on that, and I will be using this opportunity to warn persons who are involved in this plot that their cover has already been blown. Your cover has already been blown. The best thing for you to do is to stop at this point in time. It will serve you no use deploying fake election observers, fake election monitors tomorrow, because we will intercept them and we will deal with them appropriately. If you have also made fake uniforms of any of the law enforcement agency in Nigeria, and you intend to clothe political thugs and criminals with these uniforms, apparel, or accoutrements of legitimate law enforcement agents, we are also coming after you. So these are some of the issues that we'll be dealing with tomorrow, and we're keeping a very close watch on them. We'll also be appealing to parents, guardians, to keep a very close eye on their wards, on their children, and do everything within their power to restrain them from allowing themselves to be used by politicians for their selfish interests.
Are the schools shut for the purpose of the election, or you are giving the schools within an hour? There are a lot of higher institutions in Benin, in Edo State for this, and for this purpose, for the period of the election. Are you giving them special attention, or what?
The good thing is that election is taking place on a Saturday, and it's the Saturdays are traditionally work-free days. The next day is also a Sunday. Sundays are also traditionally work-free days. So we don't think the process will disrupt any of these activities. But we're keeping very close eyes on higher institutions within the state, because we understand that of course, our higher institutions are places where you find very young men and women, and politicians naturally are tempted to go there to procure talks, to hire young persons whom they can use for criminal purposes. So we are keeping our eyes on them. We are monitoring the different cult groups here, and we are doing everything within our powers to ensure that we mitigate all the threats that we've already uncovered during our threat analysis.
So there are already assassination attempts, plots to hijack election materials, and plot to disrupt the process. Have you made any arrests in the last 24 hours? And what have you discovered so far?
We've made a couple of arrests. Again, there's active operations.
Within the last 24 hours specifically?
Exactly, yes. We've made arrests in the last 24 hours, but these are active, ongoing operations and investigations, and I will not be speaking on them.
Are they related to the election?
Obviously.
Have you heard about the assassination attempt?
I don't have any report about any assassination attempt, but for me, every crime, every strand of crime or attempted crime or a plot to commit a crime is taken very seriously.
What about those who are planning to hijack election materials, invasion of INEC offices? There are also intelligence on how INEC Collation Center are going to be invaded and hijack of election materials. What is intelligence telling you about that?
So, when you plan deployment for elections, particularly in Nigeria, and particularly in a hotly contested atmosphere like Edo State, you need to make allowances, provisions for all variables. And we have plans for the different variables, for the different scenarios. And we also have the capacity to continue to review and recalibrate our operations as we proceed.
What guarantee can you give us tonight as regarding the election of tomorrow, in terms of the police have really been dragged in this election, politically speaking, and there are those who have thought that the police is biased and partisan in this, leading to this election? But what guarantee can you give us? How confident should Nigerians be in the Nigerian police force ahead of this election tomorrow?
For me, we're keeping our heads straight, and we wouldn't want to be dragged into unnecessary controversies that will distract us from keeping our eyes on the ball. And that's exactly what I'm doing, and that's exactly what I've charged my men to do. That's what the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Betogo, has equally charged us to do. So we'll stay by keeping our eyes on the ball. We don't want to get distracted. We don't want to be drawn into unnecessary controversies that would dissipate our energy and detract us from the huge task ahead of us. But for citizens of Edo State and Nigerians generally, I want to assure you that your police, our police, will do what is right tomorrow. We are not aliens. We're all Nigerians. Those who are policing, those who are members of the Nigerian police force, are not citizens of Ghana. They're not from Russia. They're not from Ukraine. They're not from Botswana or any other place. We are all Nigerians. And no one can claim to love this country more than officers and men of the Nigerian police and the armed forces. We are a special breed of people who have taken this role and put a nation ahead of us. We are a special breed of people who lay our lives down for other citizens to live. We take the bullets that others will stay alive. We take the stabbings that others will stay alive. When there are troubles, we head towards trouble when every other person is walking away from the trouble. So by the very nature of our job, we have offered ourselves as sacrificial lambs for this country. We are here. We love our country. We'll do what is good for our country.
Mr. Frank Mba is a Deputy Inspector General of Police and is in charge of tomorrow's election across Edo State, out of the 18 local government areas and in the over 4,500 polling units that will be conducting and coming alive tomorrow. Thank you so much indeed, DIG Frank Mba, for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Get some rest too.
We'll rest after the elections.
All right.